And welcome, Nathan. How are you? I've got Nathan Gore-Brown with me from Test EV, long-time EV owner and lover, long-time advocate, and he's started a business called Test EV. But hey, Nathan, how are you? But first, I want to start with tell me about your EV aha moment. When did you first think that, or work out that EVs just were going to be the thing?
Yeah, hi Rosco. Thanks very much for having us on. And look, my EV ha moments kind of had two parts. First, I worked in the Northern Territory working for Caterpillar, and we had massive diesel engines burning so much diesel you couldn't even count it. And for me, at that point, it was like we've got to be able to do better. And then I
Yeah.
joined Mazda cars in about 2014 or so, and I asked one of the big boys at Mazda from Japan, one of the national global sales managers, and I said, so what do you think about EVs? This is 2015, 2014 time. And his response to me was like, we see no future for EVs.
Yes.
And for me, that was it. That was like, oh, okay, I'm going to get myself a different job. And not that much longer on, I worked for Tesla. So yeah, that was it.
What was your first EV?
But my first EV was a Model 3, but I've had some funky ones since. I imported a Honda E from the UK.
Yeah, I love those. Absolutely love
So,
them.
such a great car. What a shame
Yeah,
we never got it originally.
I know.
And there's only about 8 in the country, so get
Yeah,
yourself an absolute mega one, and more recently a Verizon Supervan. So I've got myself some funky EVs along the way.
yeah. Love the Verizon too. I know we're going to see a lot more commercials. We'll get to commercials another day and spend a lot more time on commercials. Can't wait to see the Utes. Can't wait to see the vans on the way. How did you get into EV battery testing and just interested in batteries generally? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I've always been interested in the consumer's position with regards to EVs. What do they need? How can we break down barriers? I've certainly been involved in sort of policy debates and so on, and supporting government with a lot of that, and done a lot of frontline discussions with people who have got challenges with taking up an EV. So I could see that in the used car space, the number one reason for people
Yeah.
not taking up a used EV is their concerns around battery health, and
Yeah.
that's what drove me to look around the world for the world's best independent provider of that service. And yeah, we went on and started something up.
Just we'll go to one side. Let's talk about them now, shall we? Let's talk about Avalou, who power your business. Tell me how you found them, and what do they do, and how did they get in behind battery testing and battery research? Because this has been a big thing for a long time. It's not just suddenly come out of nowhere, has it?
That's right. Well, Avalou are an Austrian company. They've been going for about 8 years now. And from the 3 founders in the initial to over 80 staff now, the guys at Avalou have been developing battery health assessments for all that time. And now have done certainly more testing than anyone in the world. They've got over 400,000 tests under their belt. They've got the ability to test more vehicles than any other provider of this. And so I just went around the world looking for the world's best battery health testing
Yeah.
device, and Avalou are certainly that. And so I approached them to support the Australian New Zealand markets, and we've been going for a little over 12 months now. So yeah.
And let's just dive back a bit. I just want to recap a bit, yeah, because we talk about research for a long time, 8 years, and what was the big change between batteries from the Nissan Leaf way back in the day and what we might call the modern generation of batteries? What was the big leap forward, right? That meant
Well,
they were probably generally more reliable. Yeah.
Yeah, we've certainly seen, that's 14 or 15 years. You think about how much has changed maybe in the solar industry in that time. So there's massive growth in all elements of robustness and performance and so on. And so the same thing has gone with batteries. So from those early days, the construction of those batteries are better, more
Yeah.
reliable these days. Cooling systems, major part of it.
Yeah.
Battery management systems, keeping the batteries from being too stressed, keeping the batteries from getting too hot. Those sorts of things have made the more modern vehicles perform better. And obviously the way they're constructed, materials and so on, have made them perform better as well.
Yeah.
So we have seen an increase in that, but that doesn't mean that we don't have some challenges with modern day vehicles too.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then when you say battery management, again, we'll try and everyone knows what most everything is who's watching this, but back to basics a bit. Battery management, that's the computer and the way it allows the power to be used, I guess, or instead of just draining it quickly or faster, or as the motor might. It's the guts of the computer in between that allows it to be distribute or used evenly. Yeah, something like that.
Sort of the barriers of it, the boundaries at which the battery can behave, both charging and discharging. So
Yeah, yeah. Good point.
those two sides of the coin, and so the battery
Yeah,
management system will slow things down if it gets too hot, or slow things down if it gets
yeah,
too full, and stuff like that.
yeah. I know, and we'll get to some tips for battery effectiveness and using your battery a bit later on. But yeah, I guess we can go straight to looking at what you've seen so far. You're out there in the field. You've been out there for a while now in Australia, and let's start with a little bit in telling us about what you've seen in terms of of what's coming back in some of the results. I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, look, there's certain things that we've seen as we've been doing testing. Been testing solidly for a year in Australia, and obviously we've got global information on that as well. So typically, you have batteries that will start life at 100%, or sometimes even more than that when you get a new car, and then you
Yeah.
have a fairly rapid early life degradation. And I say rapid, I mean you might lose about 5%, maybe 8, maybe 10, in that first maybe 12 to 18-month period as the
Okay.
battery's sort of settling down.
Yeah.
Um, and it really does change vehicle to vehicle, model to model. So
Yeah.
there's no hard and fast rule across all brands and all models. And so there's a few lines of best fit. But then the other one is, once you've sort of got that first level of degradation, you then start to plateau, and the
Yeah.
degradation of the vehicle of the battery is typically quite shallow after that, maybe 0.5% a
Yeah.
year or something along those lines. Again, model to model changes. So that's what your typical arrangement is in that state of health. And sometimes we have some problems too. About 1 to 2% of the vehicles that we test do show either rapid degradation
Yeah.
or other battery faults that might present themselves.
I think battery warranties are so outstanding now that, yeah, if you're capturing that, yeah, it's often a case of maybe referring that back to the manufacturer for warranty rather
It
than
is
being an outright just hands up.
pariah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
But what we've
It's,
also found is when there is an issue, sometimes you need that independent voice to be able to go back to the manufacturer and say, "Hey, there's something wrong
yeah,
here. You need to help me out and fix it." And we've done that, quite a
yeah.
few times.
Yeah, again, we'll come back to that, but you've played a role, but yeah, acting for some owners in that regard. But back to the actual product, and I guess or service that you're providing, and
Hmm.
we put up on screen here what the output is. I guess the battery certificate, right? And so take
Yeah.
us through some of the key points on that. What's the customer going to get? Mm.
Yeah, so this two-page document is the result of a test that interrogates the vehicle's battery management
Mm.
system and computers and finds out what's been going on. And so what we've got on the left-hand page on the main page there is the state of health. This is the usable amount of energy that's in the vehicle that we've tested, how much that compares to the original battery size. And so in the case here, it's a 92%. So it's lost 8% of its capacity, but it's still got 92. And obviously that directly transfers to how much range you might be able to get out of the vehicle. And
Mm.
really, with EVs, range equals value. That's how much
Yeah,
value you've got in the vehicle, and that's what you might be able to buy or sell it for. The little bell curve there to
mm.
the right of the number, that's how we've been able to plot your vehicle to as compared to all of the other vehicles of this family of vehicle before. So I think this one's a Tesla, and so in this particular case, we tested against the other vehicles of that same battery type, and you can see that this
Yeah,
one is performed for its kilometres travelled and its age. It is slightly better than average, and I think that's that really helps us to understand whether or not the vehicle that we've got in front of us
yeah,
is good, bad, or indifferent. And so there are the two major panels on the
yeah.
left
So
hand
yeah,
on that
so
side.
I was going to say two key points there. Yeah, an outright
Energy available.
figure of battery capacity,
Yeah,
92%. That means it's still going to perform at full performance. It just means the range is dropping. Is that
just
my
a little bit.
understanding?
Yeah, that's right. So you'll typically be able to drive as fast and go as hard, but
Yeah,
you'll just get that sort of not quite 10% less kilometres than you did before. And
yeah,
this is fairly normal. I think when you talk about an ICE vehicle, it'll also degrade over time and be
yeah. I
less
thought,
capable in its future
yeah,
years. Not as
yeah,
many
that can
hits and horses got out the bonnet, right? So
yeah,
similar sort
yeah.
of thing here.
I'm with you. We talked a bit offline before, a bit more technically detailed note about the simple fact that the current generation of batteries simply hold, even though their capacity drops, they are holding the voltage, so the power is still maintained. You're just going to get less range
Less,
by some
the size
degree.
of the
Yeah,
bucket's still the same. It's just slightly,
yeah,
it holds slightly less fluid these days in a
that's right. And,
comparison.
unlike a AAA battery or AA battery, which when it drops, the voltage drops as well. But they're more for the technically minded. We'll come we'll come back to that another day and dive a bit deeper into that.
You can see on the
Certainly,
second page there that we've got
yeah.
just a little bit of technical detail, and you can dive right into that. And the little colourful panel at the bottom there is looking at battery cell um, uh, voltage
Mm.
balancing. And that's a really important part of battery health. You can be healthy and hold this much energy, but if your batteries are all over the place from a balancing point of view, your whole pack will not hold the same amount of energy.
Yeah.
So we cover off that as well, which is a really important part of the comprehensive piece.
So obviously a whole lot of batteries made up of packs and making up the whole cell, unless you've got balance. Hey, question from Hal, and happy to take questions while we've got Nathan. Happy to go off track. Question from Hal 9000 PC: does pack temperatures have any bearing on the test?
So we do measure pack temperature, and we also compensate for pack temperature if there's a need to do so with our measurements. But also importantly, again, just like there's many cells, there's also many cell temperature measurement point sensors, and we are checking all of those to see whether or not they are in range of each other. Has there got a sensor at fault, or is the sensor showing that one side of the battery is really hot and the other side is not? And so we look at all of those elements.
Okay, cool. Hal, let me know if that covers off what you're looking for. So apart from the crooks at Toyota who have the cab and fleet market, every car's go. Yes, they do. I'm reading comments out of order. Sorry.
That's right. Referring to your thoughts on depreciation.
I'll get the hang of that. Hey,
I guess I'd add that I think depreciation of EVs is wholly directly correlated to the confidence of the market buying an EV. And if you're not confident in its technology, or you're not confident in its capability, or it's even things like battery health, if you're not confident that no one will buy, the price comes down. And so the more confident we can make the market collectively here and everybody out there and so on, the more likely those values will hold up.
Here, 100%. And that brings us to our next point, is that what makes this a little bit different to someone just doing a self-test, like I know Teslas do it themselves.
Sort of.
How do you see this being different? Yeah.
Well, Tesla's removed some of that feature, and just giving you a green tick in your tag now. It'll just say,
I saw that. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so what we do now is our vehicle, our device plugs into the vehicle, and it tests the vehicle over a period of time, and it provides information. So the device looks like this, and it provides a test of thousands of points of data over a period of time. It's like taking a video, and as we do that, we provide ourselves a comprehensive, independent, comparative test. So when we're covering everything there is to do. We're even looking at software levels and so on. We're comparing it to other vehicles that we've tested in the past, over 400,000 vehicles across the board. It's super quick. To do the Tesla test, it'll take you somewhere between 12 and 24 hours. Ours will take you 3 minutes.
So the tests from the cars here are being uploaded to the master database for Avalon globally, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, and that's how we're being able to provide that average score piece, and then also it's independently certified. So our methods, the way we present the actual energy that you can use in your battery, some manufacturers don't use that as part of their measurement. They use a different way of measuring what is battery health, and it's not as accurate. So we end up providing a more comprehensive, certified, independent position on the health of a vehicle, and that's normalized across all vehicles in the marketplace. So that's something that manufacturers, and even some of the simple readout tools, you might have heard of people, plugging a device in that they can look on their phone or something. You're just asking the car how healthy it is. We're actually doing the blood test and sending it off to the doctor.
Yeah, great analogy, because I think there'll be some standards and some simple platform standards in future to make sure that all these certificates whether it's Avalou or any competitor, but as long as it's that detailed, has the same sort of information, and provides a platform for comparison, right, between two cars. And that'll really be when the market develops. And and that's the case overseas, isn't it? That's the direction it's headed there already, where marketplaces and cars with certification. If a car's got a few more percentage or it shows a better state of health, it's worth more. Is that proving that to be the case?
Yeah, typically, a vehicle without a certificate is worth less than a vehicle with a certificate, and then two vehicles with a certificate, the one that's got a better range and a better state of health, as long as it's not got bed panels and otherwise, like for like, is going to give you a better value typically as well. And we aren't there yet. We're not seeing it in the Australian market, but at some point soon, we're going to see dealers start to price vehicles and maybe peers. Pricing vehicles that are based on that. It's the new odometer, really.
Hal 9000. Hal says, yeah, he'd love to see this on new cars out of the showroom. So there's absolutely no question from day one, that we
and you can do that.
Yeah,
you can do that if you like.
That's available. We'll give you some. We'll do the pitch and the sell later on, and tell you how much it is, and we can find someone in your state, or contact Nathan, have a chat to him yourself. By all means, we'll talk a little bit more about how you can get that done, because there's no reason why a new car can't have a battery test.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah, some cars have a usable capacity, don't they? The battery has one number and then there's a usable capacity. It would be interesting to know what it is from day one, right? And so take all the mystery out of
baseline, right? Yeah.
Then you know your baseline from the start. So, and I'm going to pat Nathan on the back here, because he's done a deal with Pickles Auctions already, and here's a typical Pickles listing. And I said before, we're going to cover the whole marketplace. I'm more than happy to promote used EVs right across the board here, including what Pickles are doing at the auction houses, and whether it's car dealers, and Nathan's talking to a few and got a few on board already. One particular one in Western Australia has implemented this for all used EVs. And probably to go back 12 months, used car dealers weren't that keen after they originally got stung to sell used EVs. They had a go when the time was good, when you could sell it for more than you bought it for 2 or 3 years ago. But a year ago, they started to find out it wasn't as easy as they thought, or there was a few other issues. They pulled right away. My understanding, anyone who's a car dealer or got some more knowledge, chip in here. But because the auction house is clearly one of the sources of cars for dealers, they still go to the auction houses. If some of the dealers are trading these cars in, or the leasing companies can't get rid of them, they're going to the auction houses. There's nothing to stop individuals going there as well. I encourage anyone who's keen to buy for an auction house or check these out, by all means. They're online. Yeah. Anyone can bid for them. Long story short, the battery health certificate is page 2 of this listing. You can see it down the bottom under the car. Here's a Polestar done 100,000 Ks. And here is a battery health certificate of 94.2%. That is fantastic, right? And absolutely brilliant. Now, I'm not so excited about the result. That's giving dealers more confidence now to buy these cars. That's giving even buyers more confidence to buy this car. They've got the battery health certificate, thanks to Nathan, as the second image on every one of their listings. And yeah, that is a great deal.
It's been fantastic. Pickles have really seen that this is a major part of them getting better values for their fleet defleeting customers. So whether it's a government fleet or a corporate fleet, they exit vehicles out of fleets and into the marketplace. That's their job. That's what they do. And they want to get the best price for their vendor. They want to see vehicles pass through really well. So clearance rates, what they call clearance rates, first time put up, first time it sells, and we don't have to try it again, that sort of thing. And so they saw that battery health testing was a really important part of that journey for EVs, and they want to be a leader in EVs. They are a leader in EVs. And so there's this about 2/3 to a half of the vehicles that they're selling at the moment are going to mums and dads and people like you and me. And then the other half, or thereabouts, are going to dealers. And so they're actually trying to encourage those dealers to come and buy. And the more buyers, the higher the price, right? So Pickles really led the way there.
Exactly. And it's not just the domain of car dealers, but I do support the fact that it was the traditional route. Love to see car dealers get back into EVs to support the used EV market. We are all about and this show is about boosting the whole market. Anything we can do to boost the whole market will help Amazing EV, will help other competitors in different channels, whether it's Facebook Marketplace, Pickles, or whoever. Amazing EV, we're all about boosting and confidence, as you say, in the used EV marketplace. So if anyone else has got any more questions for Nathan, chuck them through. Anything else you'd like to wrap up? I think.
Well, I think.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to. Oh, sorry, Nathan. Is there anything else the driver can do than the way they drive or how they treat the car that would certainly help in battery health before the need for a test, right?
Yeah, look, there's a couple of things that we've seen in the past. People talking about you can drive it like you stole it and it will be just fine. It'll be great, But we found Avalu's extensive testing has found that if you do drive it harder, you're drawing more current out of the battery, you're working it harder, higher C rates. And so that will stress the battery. You generally get higher temperatures too. And temperature does make a difference to battery health, early life vehicles with poor battery management systems and poor temperature management systems have resulted in early life degradation. And then we've also seen folks along the way have some issues with vehicles that have been left to be particularly flat, sometimes overcharged, like high charge, leave it on at 100% for very long periods of time. That can stress the battery, but particularly down if you run a vehicle flat and leave it flat for a bunch of time, that will likely degrade the battery earlier than it needed to be. So keeping it in the middle, keeping it charged, and not leaving it for very large periods of time, particularly at low states of charge, is some good tip points there.
And Ross Hutch says charging to 100% doesn't really degrade a nickel battery.
It does. It does. It's probably not. There's a balance there. Is whether or not you can be really bothered. If you need long range, then either buy an LFP vehicles or use that nickel battery. So it does make a difference. But the depth and amount that it makes a difference is probably not as big a deal as maybe some of the other factors that can create battery degradation.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen it too. There's a sign that comes up, a notification that comes up on Tesla, charge to 100%. So once in a while, because it simply recalibrates the battery measurement system in the car, so it can keep track and has a reset point to 100%, so it can keep track of the actual percentage capacity, and it's nothing to do with the actual battery health itself. Is that your understanding too?
Look, no, I think there's an element of battery health in there. There's battery balancing in that part as well. So the computer itself is trying to relearn itself because it actually gets lost. And that's part of the challenge with the battery management system in a Tesla sometimes. Also, how healthy are we really? And then also, are all of our cells balanced off? That's an LFP thing. If we have a look at the nickel-based batteries, it's a slightly different approach. And I think we can see there that Hal's asked a question talked about internal resistance. Yes, that is the ultimate measure. It's quite techie, but ultimately all of these elements all drive for how much energy can this battery hold, how far can it take me? And that's all a consumer wants, right? That's all they're interested in, and that's what the value of the vehicle is.
Yeah, no, it's we're not going to go too deep, Hal, just at the moment. We know there's another 3 or 4 conversations about battery tech and the future of battery tech as well. But I guess Nathan and I are on the same page in terms of the amount of money spent on building the production of the current technology, and the allocation of resources means I think we can maximize and we can get incremental improvements maybe and increase battery charging speed with the current technology until we get to, as we're seeing already. But until whether we get to, and management's still going to play a key role, management capability. But whether we get to semi-solid state or solid state or sodium in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll get there. But a lot of money's been spent on building the current batteries, which they're going to be damn sure it's going to be the right technology as the next.
I think you've got to ask yourself is like, what more effort is required to get what more benefit? We're already at 320 watt hours per kilogram. Like we're already very good density batteries. They're all becoming quite cheap. They're fitting in smaller packages and so on. We've got ICE EV weight parity, price parity, like all of these elements, packaging parity. So why do we need solid state batteries?
I know.
Is it going to make a difference? So I'm a little bit more skeptical in that space.
Yeah,
I think the guys talked there before about an announcement this week. I actually went toe to toe with the director, with the key players at that organisation, and say, what pixie dust are you making this out of? Because I'd love to
yeah,
hear. And they're just not ready to even tell us. So let's
yeah.
see. Let's see if it works. But I'm with you. I don't think we need that much more. We've got a great technology that's really
Mm,
become quite stable, and we should be utilizing that, and really utilizing all of that capacity that's been built.
yeah. I agree, and yeah, maybe look, the dream would be to have the current range 500 k's at a battery pack half the size and half the weight. That might be utopian, and we'll have it one day. And will our lives be any different or any better?
Not really.
Story and question for another day. But if someone's wanting to take advantage of your services around the country, tell us how we can do that.
Yeah, look, so at Test EV, our aim has been to build up a network of providers of this testing equipment so that consumers, like folks on the channel today, can access that. Or if you're looking to buy a used EV, that you can ask the buyer to help you to get that test
Yeah,
for that new vehicle. So at testev.co, our website, there's a map, there's vendors of that service around the country now, and it's growing all the time. And you can go and find somebody that supports your needs. There's mobile providers of that. There's vehicle inspectors who will look at the whole entire vehicle for you and do a test. There's workshops as well that will do it. And there's quite a few dealers that are starting to provide this as the service. So just like you saw in Pickles, second or third image is going to be a test. So keep your eye out for that as well. But go to Test EV and check out where's one for you.
Another thought again for anyone that might have some people who might have some security concerns. So there is a thing that plugs in, an OBD that plugs into the car. It's obviously extracting some data about the car and sending it to a cloud of research people. Have you been asked about security concerns in relation to that?
Yeah, look, the only thing that we take from the vehicle that provides us any identification for the vehicle is the VIN number.
Yeah,
The program uses the VIN number to then identify the type of vehicle and the type of program that we need to be talking to the vehicle about, and that is simply the way it works. So we don't know who you are, we don't know where you are, we don't know
yeah.
other than where the device is operated by Pickles, or it's operated by myself or one of our partners. That's it. So we've been through some pretty rigorous cybersecurity conversations with the likes of
Yeah,
the RACT in Tasmania, who are customers of ours,
yeah, okay.
asking all those deep questions, and we've managed to satisfy them as it being quite a low risk.
That just occurred to me that if there was any fears, there is a device to plug it in. It is uploaded. Then you get basically you pays your money. You get the certificate straight away emailed to you.
Yes,
It's a very quick process.
that's right.
You get the results straight away. So, and really appreciate your time tonight, Nathan. We could talk for hours, and I hope to have you back again. We'll do this again. We'll pick up and talk a bit more about how the whole story and journey is going in the used EV market, because it's only just a start.
Yeah.
Someone told me that you're in the market for another used EV, though. Is that true? Are you looking for something?
Unfortunately, my Model 3 got written off recently, so not my fault, but did happen. So I've been scooching around, and I think I'm enjoying the buying phase, or the searching phase. So you showed that newer Mini. I've been having a look at some older Minis recently.
Yeah.
I would, if I wanted to sort of stretch a little bit for the kind of car that we're looking for, I'm a bit of a fan of the Fiat Abarth Fiat 500 Abarth. That's
I
pretty.
know that. Yeah,
No,
that's secretly I know.
silly
We've
car.
driven the 500, and I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind to go on that one. Yeah,
Yeah, some silly cars that I quite like. I really like
yeah,
small cars. The Honda E was one of those. Like small cars, I like. I don't need a lot of range for the kind of stuff
yeah.
that I do. So looking out for the right car that comes to market. There's lots of really good options and just good deals. Right? There's some undervalued EVs out there right now.
If I've missed anyone, you can contact Nathan via the website as well with any further questions.
Yeah,
Contact him
come find me.
to get organised a test. Thanks, Nathan, for joining us this evening. Really appreciate your time. And look, this will be the first of many. Look forward to catching up again soon. Cheers.
Fantastic, mate. All the best.